Trackhouse got caught playing in the dirt on Sunday. NASCAR says they'll have a talk with him. And is NASCAR close to zeroing in on a new playoff format? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Tableau TV. Looking forward to Bristol this weekend. I will be at Bristol along with my new friends from the East Tennessee Foundation, a nonprofit that's been around almost 40 years and has done a lot of great work this past year supporting communities that were impacted by Hurricane Helene. They've partnered up with Bristol and Speedway Children's Charities this weekend to support children and families in need. I'll be talking with their CEO about their efforts at the end of this video, so stay tuned. Trackhouse was kind of a non-factor at Gateway this past Sunday. Daniel Suarez got wrecked by Chase Briscoe, and their two playoff drivers, Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen, finished 24th and 25th. After the race, as the field was headed to pit road, both Chastain and Van Gisbergen drove through the grass multiple times. Reporter John Newby shared these clips from the Max in-car cameras. Yeah, I mean, it looks like when someone falls asleep on the interstate. Oh, here goes SVG with a little off-roading, adding off-road racing to his already dynamic skill set. No, in all seriousness, what's going on here? Driver Corey LaJoie chimed in on social media. They, NASCAR, posts all the playoff cars. They're trying to pick up a couple pounds of grass, rocks, rubber, to let your car chief feel a little better when you roll across the scales. Remember last year in the playoffs, Alex Bowman was disqualified from the Roval race for failing to meet minimum weight. And Bowman was actually one of the first to chime in over his radio this Sunday when he saw what Chastain and SVG were doing. I'm not sure how much extra weight these guys expected to find in the grass, but obviously they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think there was some potential advantage to be gained. NASCAR took note of what these two did. Cup Series Managing Director Brad Moran was on SiriusXM radio this morning and said, quote,
"We'll be having some discussions with Trackhouse management as well as their crew chiefs. We'll be giving all the teams some information regarding that this week. But it certainly caught our radar, and we have rules that could put them teams in a real bad spot when we see that. So we'll make it pretty clear to them moving forward, starting at Bristol, what that means."
I think we already know what it means. We've seen if you're a couple of pounds underweight post-race, you could get disqualified and potentially eliminated from the playoffs. Looking at those Trackhouse guys, SVG is already below the cut line and Chastain's not too far ahead. A DQ at Bristol, for example, could be devastating even early in the playoffs. He says they're going to talk to Trackhouse. They're going to talk to everyone this week, apparently. I wouldn't be surprised if NASCAR spent a little extra time analyzing those Trackhouse Chevys at Bristol. But if they're talking about issuing future penalties, where is the line? Because I feel like it's fairly common for drivers to, on the cool down lap, drive up near the inside or outside wall, pick up some extra rubber, some marbles, get that debris on their tires. Again, every little bit of weight potentially could help. I feel like that's very common across most racetracks. Do we draw the line simply at, hey, don't drive through the grass, don't drive off the track? Or do we draw the line simply at, hey, don't intentionally damage your car on the cool down lap? Because we've seen that before too. Guys will, back the car into the wall to bend the rear quarter panel. It used to be common for race winners to burn out their tires, blow out their rear fenders. And I think everyone kind of knows, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a lot of teams were doing that to try and hide some things they maybe didn't want NASCAR to see. So I don't know, where do we draw the line? Because I don't see NASCAR officiating guys driving through rubber on the cool down lap. Do we just say, hey, don't drive through the grass anymore? Don't make it so obvious like the Trackhouse guys did? Where do we draw the line, or do we just say this is strategy? We know every team is fighting every fraction of an inch, a couple ounces, maybe a pound of rubber and grass. Is that really going to make the difference? If it does, good for the teams. We're talking about 3,500 pound race cars. If a rock in the wheel well is the difference maker, it's not an exact science. I don't know where you draw the line. Maybe just say, hey, don't drive through the grass going forward. Keep all four tires on the pavement and we won't have any issues. But either way, interesting to know that NASCAR has noted what Trackhouse did, and it doesn't sound like Brad Moran liked what he saw. In other conversation, on the Door Bumper Clear podcast this week, reporter Jordan Bianchi seemed to be hinting that a new 3-3-4 type playoff format could be coming soon. A format that would see the champion decided by a 4-race final round. This could be something. We've heard for a fact that many within the industry agree that the 1-race winner-take-all championship should probably go. But at the same time, this 3-3-4 race format isn't confirmed. We can talk about it as a hypothetical. Hypothetically, there is one part of this proposed format that I love. I love a larger sample size to determine the champion in that final round. The 1-race winner-take-all finale has always been my biggest issue with the playoffs. You can argue that just by making the championship 4, you've proven that you are championship worthy, but then you get situations like in 2021, where Kyle Larson, who had 9 wins at that time, 2,500 laps led and a 9th place average finish, was on the verge of finishing behind Chase Elliott, who at the time had 2 wins, only 900 laps led, and 11th place average finish. With a 4-race final round, the best drivers all season get to take advantage of their playoff points once again. They get that advantage, and now they get to defend their championship lead at a variety of tracks over a larger sample size. But you still have to step up. You can't just simply coast through those final few races. You gotta perform when the lights are brightest. I think that's a much better balance than what we have now. So I really like that element of this hypothetical playoff change. One thing I question though after hearing this, if we go 3 races, then 4 races, only 3 rounds, not 4, are we going from 16 to 12 to a championship 8? I doubt NASCAR is going to reduce the playoff field to 12 and do like 12-8-4. So it's probably going to be 16-12-8 or maybe like a 16-10-4. You eliminate 6 every round. I don't know if I love just focusing on 4 drivers for 4 full weeks. So maybe a championship 8, those final 4 weeks, is the right way to go. But then it's going to take me some time to get used to a championship 8 when we've been talking about championship 4s for 12 years. I've said for years that if you look at the all-time championship 4 appearances list, it's the who's who of this era. At the top, it's guys like Harvick, Truex, Kyle Busch. In that next tier, it's the Joey Logano's, the Denny Hamlins, and then creeping up on that is the Brad Keselowski's and Kyle Larson's and Chase Elliott's, Blaney, Bell, Byron. Yeah, like that's the list. If you were to ask me over the last 12 years, who are the best drivers in Cup? That's the list right there. And those are the guys who make the most championship 4s. So changing that to a championship 8 would take some getting used to, but I don't hate it. I also don't hate, again, in this hypothetical, the fact that Talladega would be in that final 4-race round because the schedule has already been announced. Talladega, 3rd to last race of the year. I don't like that Talladega would be in that championship round, but because it's surrounded by 3 other more traditional tracks, again, that larger sample size, I don't mind it. Now, if this hypothetical 3-3-4 format sticks around, yeah, should probably get Talladega out of there by 2027. But if it's in there next season, I'm not horrified. I don't like it. I just don't think it ruins the format for me. Anyway, that's my instant reaction to this hypothetical 3-race, 4-race playoff format that Jordan Bianchi seems to be teasing on Door Bumper Clear this week. Think about it this way. A championship 8 would also get rid of, 2020 Kevin Harvick examples where he had a tremendous year, but a bad round of 8, he missed the final 4. He would have been in the championship 8 under this proposed format. Or Kyle Larson last year, great season, barely missed the championship 4. Wouldn't be the case. He would have made the championship 8 under this new proposed format. So yeah, I think there are more good things about this hypothetical format than bad when we compare it to the current postseason format we have. Anyway, those are my quick thoughts. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Now, like I mentioned earlier, let's talk to Keith Barber to hear more about East Tennessee Foundation's mission and how we can help them support communities in need. NASCAR heads to Bristol, Tennessee this weekend, almost a year after Hurricane Helene devastated much of the region. Communities are still recovering all these months later, which is why I'd like to introduce Keith Barber, President and CEO of the East Tennessee Foundation, who have been able to strategically grant millions of dollars to different organizations in the area. Keith, first to start off, can you explain more the impact Hurricane Helene had and how those effects are still being felt today?
Yeah, Eric, thank you for allowing us to be on here today. The impact that the hurricane had on East Tennessee was devastating, just like it was in Western North Carolina and other parts. Any natural disaster. We saw lives changed, communities rearranged, even rivers reforged, and just from A to Z, we saw the devastation that occurs and the recovery efforts that have been in existence for almost a year now, as you noted.
What are some of the areas that East Tennessee Foundation have been able to fund or help support in the past year?
Eric, we've done various things from helping relief efforts, which is short term, to longer term recovery efforts. And so those are varied. Needs are all across the board, as you might think, from housing, rebuilding of housing, new construction of housing for people who lost their homes, to helping with the waterways. As I mentioned, the rivers were focused their pathways and helping to make sure they're clean and viable for use. Again, helping to in the mental health area space that people are going through both then and now in the recovery process, to grant to individual organizations that are helping in that space to just help people cope with lifestyles that are new and devastating, and working from that devastation.
Yeah, I know in our conversations earlier, you talked about the difference between the immediate relief versus the longer term recovery. And I remember you said one of the earliest things that y'all were able to help fund and support were water testing kits, which is both kind of a short-term necessity, but also a long-term necessity. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of the difference between those short-term efforts and now long-term, what is still needed and what East Tennessee Foundation is helping with?
Absolutely, Eric. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have done some short-term relief efforts, and that's by national definition. Those are a very a limited space of time after the disaster occurs, and those are things like food, water, immediate shelter, and then the long-term recovery efforts, which are also research tells us that it takes X amount of days, X amount of years post the natural disaster to have a full recovery. So we focused on both. Again, you gave a great example of how we provided funding to purchase water test kits, because the groundwater, no one knew if it was viable for drinking and use, and so those are very important. But as you said, that also has a long-term effect. We have spent or invested several $1 million into positions to help each of the disaster declared counties in our region recover by providing individual support for individuals who have been hired locally to coordinate efforts in the rebuilding, the reconstruction, the whole framework of the community being back together. And so we're very pleased to continue to do that. And that's so we see both of those, the ebb and flow of the relief efforts and the long-term recovery efforts, as part of our business. And both of those are still needed. Not as much anymore, again, a year afterwards in the relief part, but certainly in the recovery area. And that is still needed by our neighbors. And we're still looking and still receiving grant applications and making grants to support those, whatever that might be. Agricultural farmland, for instance, is one of the long-term recovery efforts, where rivers overflowed their boundaries and their banks and literally took away the soil. And I've been to places in Northeast Tennessee where there were planted crops, and now there's rock. And how do you go just helping your family, your neighbors in that space? And we're looking to do that and are doing that, but more to come.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question, actually, is what what other recovery efforts are still needed today? What right now are sort of the most immediate, demands?
Eric, we see them again broad-based. There are still people without houses who have, for whatever reason, have not been able to. Um, a lot of people didn't have insurance for natural disasters. When you live in the mountains, you don't think about a hurricane coming, right?
Yeah.
And so we're still seeing reconstruction there or a new construction. And we're still seeing, again, I mentioned this a bit ago, the need for that help with whether it's children or families, adults, it doesn't matter the age range, but the psychological impacts have been great, and that mental health capacity help that we can provide through nonprofit partners through the region is very much prevalent and I think needed. We'll also see as we come upon the 1 year anniversary, we leave the summer months and get into fall and then winter. There are homes who you may be in your home, but you may not have heat.
Mm.
And so, how do we make sure we're helping to supply heat for those homes? Those kinds of things are still very prevalent. I think our neighbors would share if we asked them. They would also say, yeah, these and many more opportunities still are in front of us. And I do say opportunities because they're opportunities for the audience that you have that's listening today to reach out and help us. But they're opportunities for us to help, as we say, neighbor to neighbor.
Absolutely. Well, the NASCAR community specifically, all eyes will be on Bristol, Tennessee this week. So how can NASCAR fans support the East Tennessee Foundation and your mission?
Yeah, this week is really cool, Eric. We are partnering with Bristol Motor Speedway's Children's Charities Ministry. That is the Speedway's nonprofit, which focuses obviously on children, but also families as an extension of those kids. And so, as a grantee of ours, we are working with them to accept donations from our NASCAR fans. And we have a QR code that I'm sure you'll probably show that folks can donate to. We're the financial backer of these kinds of programs. Children's charities, for instance, they hand out the backpacks, they hand out the meals, they do that hands-on work, that ground level work, and we finance that. And so without that partnership, the financing and the grassroots efforts, we wouldn't be able to do this. So this week, especially at Bristol, specific to Bristol, we're working with this particular organization that's going to be able to make impacts in families, our neighbors throughout the region. They're not just making those impacts in Bristol proper, but throughout the whole region and through this partnership. So that's the way that we're looking to make impacts, and hopefully the fans will join in and provide donations.
Yeah, great opportunity for NASCAR fans to help out many of their fellow neighbors, other race fans in the region. Well, Keith, that's great stuff. I really do appreciate your time, and I encourage fans to visit easttennesseefoundation.org or scan that QR code to learn more, support any way you can. And fans who are headed to the racetrack this weekend, be sure to stop by the ETF booth. You can say hi to Keith. I'll be there, and you can see more and learn more about what East Tennessee Foundation is doing to make a positive difference across the region. So, Keith, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really do appreciate your time.
Thanks, Eric. We look forward to seeing all the fans at Bristol this weekend.
Thank you again to Keith for coming on. Thank you for listening. Racing at Bristol this weekend is fitting. Again, nearly a year after that tragedy last year. Also fitting, I was looking at my notes again, that Cletus McFarland is scheduled to run the ARCA race Thursday night, considering all the work Cletus did and his group helping with initial immediate relief efforts. So this is a great weekend to remind everyone the scale of what happened last year and to encourage fans to continue to support those ongoing recovery efforts. I hope you'll choose to support. I will be at Bristol. I hope you're able to make it out. If not, I hope you're able to watch the Xfinity Series pre-race show on Friday on the CW. Keith and I may have a little bit more in store as well. Thanks for watching this episode, folks. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.